Good morning from Canada. It's very early here, and I'm happy to share Edmonton's experience. Currently, we're under a state of local emergency in the city and have set up our Emergency Operations Center, and we are under a public health emergency in the province of Alberta. We've been in lockdown since mid-March. We're not sure of the future timelines that we're going to face that'll ease in restrictions. This is the most challenging economic climate that we've had in generations, and cities are on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're keeping people safe while continuing to provide those essential services in face of an economic and health crisis. Cities really have limited or no ability to deal with such an emergency. We're not able to run deficits and have seen falling revenues, which limits our ability to provide services to our residents. For the city of Edmonton, even under a modest scenario, we would see a loosening of the restrictions by mid-September and are projecting a revenue shortfall of $127.5 million. And this is really made up of our deferred property taxes, deferred utility fees, lost revenues from transit and parking, reduction in fees to close rec centers and other facilities. In addition, we have new costs from the emergency response, and they're going to cost us around $14.2 million. These revenue shortfalls and new expenses are partially offset by operational savings that are a result of closing the facilities, reducing services, and laying off staff. But it still leaves us a $109.8 million net shortfall. As we look forward, what we can do next and how do we answer the next question, as previously mentioned, with significant decreased revenue and without the ability to run a deficit, which we count in Canada, it makes it difficult for communities to rebound. The first things we often look at is reduction in services and staff. We closed our rec centers, our libraries. We reduced transit service. Much of this was done to enforce physical distancing measures, but it resulted in significant layoff of staff who provided the services. The second thing we can do is shift longer-term capital spending to immediate operational needs. We have to be cautious about this because it could result in an infrastructure deficit up the road, but it might be the only choice we have in the short term. Thirdly, we're reaching out. We're advocating for support from our national and regional governments. I know we're working with our local municipal association, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, to ask our federal government for some emergency operating funds for municipalities and direct them straight to municipalities to help them address our shortfall and provide services to residents. As we begin to look forward beyond COVID-19, we recognize three things that are going to help us build resilient, sustainable cities. One, we have to address the short-term issues, but be mindful of the impact on the municipal corporations' long-term financial sustainability. We're desperately trying to avoid deficit, but also limit infrastructure deficits or avoid spending for a season because that could mean a bigger bill down the road. We need to balance infrastructure maintenance spending with growth. Number two, we need to continue to support the stabilization of the local economy, working with other orders of government, business, and community organizations. We're in this together. We need jobs to build a strong economy. Stimulus investment will be important, but we also have to be mindful of how recovery impacts affect different sections of our population. We know that women are the greatest at risk. They have typically made lower wages. Higher percentage of them are being laid off, and we need to engage them in solutions. We have an organization, Women Building Futures, who trains women in construction, and we can see that's where the first wave of new jobs may be. Finally, long-term planning is essential, and we need to look at it from a multidisciplinary approach. It's going to take time to overcome from such a devastating economic challenge, but we can one step at a time. So we're looking at developing a recovery plan using a corporate interdisciplinary team. For Edmonton, such work is being led by the Strategic Response to COVID-19 project, which will assess the provincial, national, and global impacts of the pandemic relative to the city of Edmonton. It will develop potential recovery scenarios and assess their impacts on the city's financial position. And hopefully in the next 18 to 24 months, we'll have a plan. So as we move forward, we'll be better prepared for the next one. Thank you.